You're listening to Themes and Memes. My name is Adam, and here with me I have my co-host Aaron. How you doing, Aaron?
Hey, very good. Good to be here again.
Yeah, it's good to be here again. And today we're going to return to a film review, as the last couple of podcasts we did were actually more about the U.S. election and the results, and a whole bunch of discussions about what was going on there and what all of that meant. But we're returning to our bread and butter here on Themes and Memes. And actually review a film, but this film is also relevant in a lot of ways to the whole the whole set of discussions we had on the election, and I guess that's what it actually came up when we were talking about the election, didn't it? We talked about Nightcrawler because it just came up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was because of the creation of narratives and false narratives and how people get sucked into those, and we're saying, oh yeah, Nightcrawler is great at showing that.
Yeah, that's right. It's fantastic at doing that, and so obviously it came up in those discussions because in this film they're talking about a particular type of narrative that puts a certain perception across to the public and helps political agendas and on that kind of thing. So we can get into that, but what I'll do is I'll run through a quick synopsis of the film, and then we can take it from there. So this is what year is this again?
2014.
2014, that's right. Yeah,
just 2 years ago. Recent.
Very recent, yeah.
Not new, but recent. Totally
relevant to right now, though. Yeah. It's interesting when films like this come up. They sort of, a film will come out and then it will appear to be very, very relevant, say a year or two later to something, and that always piques my interest when something like that happens. But this was directed by Dan Gilroy. So don't know a lot about him as a director, but I know that he's co-written some other stuff. He was involved in The Bourne Legacy, which is a fairly big film, and a few other films.
The Bourne film? Yeah, okay, yeah. Sure. CIA there, sure.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, The Bourne Legacy was kind of a departure from the trilogy, or the quadrilogy, but yeah, it's still in that vein. But yeah, so it's starring a few different people. Jake Gyllenhaal is the lead protagonist there, and you've got other people like Bill Paxton as well. And
I love Bill Paxton.
I love Bill Paxton. Yeah, I was just about to say that. He's one of my favorites, man. He's always been one of my favorites since I was a kid.
Yeah, Hudson from Aliens.
Yeah, Hudson from Aliens, and then
I love that.
And then even in Twister, I love him in Twister as well. Play the character of Bill. I love that southern accent or whatever it is.
Yeah, he's good.
But yeah, so to get into the synopsis, Renee Russo as well, she's in there. Mm-hmm. But so the film is set in Los Angeles, mostly takes place at night, and introduces the character of Lou Bloom, played by Gyllenhaal, and he's basically he's a sociopathic entrepreneur, really. Looking for opportunity, in the after hours of urban Los Angeles, and so we see him. He's stealing scrap metal and fencing wire to be sold as scraps, and selling it on to a scrapyard and stuff like that. And one of the first shots is him being confronted by a security guard who's asking him why he's cutting this fence up, and he actually mugs the security guard and takes his watch. So right off the bat, we see that
he's a petty criminal.
A petty criminal, but a very, very cold, calculated criminal nonetheless,
Yep.
But
good.
He applies for a job at the scrapyard. He tries to haggle his way into a job there with the foreman, which is a very, very funny scene. And he's talking about like the American dream and the capitalist ambitions, and he's like, you're at the top of the mountain, and I'm at the bottom, and I got to get there, and I've got ambition.
He's trying to inflate the ego of the guy he's interviewing with, ostensibly interviewing. It's not even that.
yeah. But obviously he's rejected because the guy's like, look, I'm not hiring a thief, I'll buy you scraps, but I'm not going to hire you, that was the end of that. But on his way, so again, this is early hours of the morning, and he's on his way home after this, and he passes a car crash on the freeway, and there's the emergency services pulling a woman out of a burning car, and he sees this. They call them stringers, these photojournalists that follow the police around and get footage of accidents and things like that. And this is the Bill Paxton character. So, he sees the Bill Paxton character shooting footage of this car crash, and he goes up to him and he's like, oh, what are you doing? And how does this all work? And Bill Paxton, or I think his name is Loader, the character of Joe Loader is Bill Paxton's character. Yeah. And he brushes him off, basically, doesn't he? He's like, oh,
he tells him
whatever.
enough to get the idea of what he's doing. Like, yeah, I filmed this and I give it to the news channels. So he gets the idea. So this is like the inspiration for Lou. Like, he's finally found his calling. He's like, I need to get in on this. That's like the moment in the film right there where he's like, yeah, I found something I want to go after and I think I can do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But at the same time, right off the bat, we see that this guy Loder is fairly disillusioned and grumpy. You know what I mean? He says like, "Oh, we don't make nearly enough money. This is an asshole of a job," and all this kind of stuff. You know?
Yeah, this is horrible. So you don't want to do.
He kind of puts him off, but obviously, as you say, you know, the Lou character is captivated by this. You know, this whole the scene of Carnage and you know, capturing that on camera and all this type of stuff. So
he enjoys it.
He loves it. He absolutely loves it. And the biggest kick is when he actually gets home and he switches on the television. He sees that very same footage being aired on the morning news. And so he's like, wow, I saw that happen, and that guy filmed it, and now I'm seeing it on television, and I want to do this, you know? Mm-hmm. So he then goes to Venice Beach, I think it is. Is it Venice Beach?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's Venice for sure. Yeah. And he steals a bike.
He steals the bike.
Takes it to a pawn shop.
It's an expensive-looking bike. I don't know much. Yeah. You might know what kind of bike that was, Aaron. I don't know.
I can't remember the make, but yeah, it was a nice road bike.
Yeah, it was a nice one. So yeah, he takes it to the pawn shop and he's haggling aggressively with the owner, wanting to get some like thousands of dollars for it. And they eventually agree.
He's just BSing too. He doesn't know anything about it.
He's riding around in circles on the shop floor, going, you know, blah blah. I rode this bike to Mexico and all this type of stuff, you know. And the guy's just not having a bar of it, but he agrees to give him whatever it is, $800 store credit, and so he uses
store
that
credit. Yes,
yeah, which is always more in a pawn shop, you know. Mm-hmm. But so he trades this for uses it to buy a camcorder and a police radio scanner, and so you know, he gets his gear, and then that night he goes out trying to find some carnage to film, and after a number of failed attempts, he does finally get to you know, I think it's a fatal carjacking, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember.
There's a big scene. There's I'm pretty sure that's what it was, because the police are there and there's like a, you know, there's bullet holes in the window and a guy lying bloody on the ground and all this type of stuff. And so he then goes into a local news station to sell it. And this is the news station KWLA6. What is the deal with these American news cables? They always start with K. These cable stations. It's always KW something or other, or KX this. Or...
I know with radio, definitely the West Coast is K.
Oh, I see.
And then the East Coast is W. I can't remember if it's the same for TV news channels or not, but definitely with radio stations, it's K on the West Coast, and then, you know, you got like K-Rock, the famous rock station out here and all that kind of stuff. And you got W out east.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's just KWLA, but I get the LA part, obviously, but yeah. I don't know, I didn't know anything about that, but I just noticed there's a pattern with all the names of those stations. But anyway, so he he speaks to the morning news director, the character Nina Romina, who's played by Rene Russo. And, you know, he again, haggles aggressively with her, trying to get, you know, some ridiculous amount of money for this footage, and she's like, no way, you're out of your mind, but we'll give you a few $100 and you know, keep up your work and we'll see what happens. And she then explains to him, like, you know, what type of footage they're looking for. And this is one of the most interesting takeaway quotes from the film, is so we got, you know, the Rene Russo character and the Jake Gyllenhaal character walking through this news station, you know, and she's kind of giving him an insight into the business, and she says, we find our viewers are more interested in urban crime creeping into the suburbs. What that means is victim or victims, preferably well off and white, injured at the hands of the poor or a minority. The best and clearest way that I can phrase it to you, to capture the spirit of what we air, is think of our newscast as a screaming woman running down the road with her throat cut. So this is her communicating to Lou, you know, what they're about, what type of footage he should be getting, and the narratives that they're pushing and they're fabricating.
Yes,
you know?
Yes, it's all about the narrative. And she's telling them, man, hey, look, we're making a narrative. This is the footage. Any footage you get that works within these confines is what we're looking for. So go get it.
Yeah, that's right. And so there's a narrative there, like a banner that they use throughout the film and in these news broadcasts, where it's like, I think is it something like urban crime creeps into the suburbs? It's like a paraphrased version of that or something, isn't it? What is it? Do you remember?
Well, they have these news stories that are like ongoing stories, and they'll give them the silly title.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
like one is like carjacking crime wave. Was
carjacking crime wave? That's what I mean. Sorry, yeah,
this actually happens. Like this. I'm trying to definitely. I don't know if like the big cable news stations or the local news stations do this more, but definitely this happens all the time. The silly little titles for ongoing stories.
Yeah, you get like one or two carjackings within the same month, and it's a crime wave, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I just thought that quote was fantastic, and perhaps we can return to that later on. But to get back to the plot there, so Lou goes out to keep working, and he hires this character of Rick, who's this basically like a broken, maladjusted young guy. And he's desperate for cash,
down on his luck.
Doesn't even have like a pot to piss in, as they say.
Oh yeah,
and
he's desperate.
Yeah. Very eccentric, nervous, anxious kind of character, He's
relatable. I think most people can relate to him. He's like down on his luck. Yeah. He's going to take what he can get.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a situation.
We've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. So he's very relatable for the audience. So he's a great. I love the character. He
is. Yeah. I mean, I think we've all been there, so we can all relate to the position that he's in. But so Lou hires him as an intern. Initially, and tries to get him working for nothing, but Rick says to him, "Look, I've got to have something," and so he gives him like a $30 per night retainer or something like that. Yeah, it's peanuts basically. But the two of them, go out at night in this car and continue filming these crime scenes. So Rick is sitting in the passenger seat with a GPS and the police scanner directing Lou, And
he's like the navigator.
Navigator, there you go. He's a navigator. And so they continue to film crime and accidents and that kind of stuff. And as their work gains traction, what happens is that Lou and Rick actually start tampering with accidents and crime scenes to make them more sensationalistic. And one example is this crash that happens up in, I don't know, is it like almost looks like a Mulholland Drive type location?
It definitely looked to be Mulholland Drive to me. I don't know if it actually was, but man, it looked like it was supposed to be Mulholland Drive.
Exactly. Somewhere in the Hollywood Hills, at least. But so obviously as he does this, as both of them start to tamper with the crime scenes and make things more sensationalistic, and again, the Mulholland Drive scene, they come across a car crash and he's dragging a body closer to a car to get it in the shot or something like that.
Yeah, he's trying to frame the shot so it looks better, is what he's doing.
Exactly. Yeah, this is obviously before the police or emergency services arrived, so completely dangerous and illegal and all that stuff. But this footage allows Lou to start charging high fees, to the newsroom. And as he becomes more successful, he starts, again, negotiating more aggressively with the Rene Russo Nina character. And so that, this results in him making demands for, more money, exclusivity, promotion, credit, all that kind of stuff. And he actually demands that Nina sleep with him as well, be his little kind of mistress there. And she's obviously very hesitant at first, but he puts the ultimatum on her and says, well, look, you need me, you need my footage. I'm giving you ratings. You're going to end up losing your contract as a news director is going to be lost if your ratings don't stay up. So, you basically are dependent on me.
Yeah, that... I don't know if I want to talk about this part later. We'll return to this. There's quite a bit I have to say about that. We'll go back to it.
Yes. But
we'll return.
Yeah, we will. But around this point in the film, the Bill Paxton character, Joe Loder, approaches the now successful Lou to propose a business partnership. So obviously he's seen that Lou's footage is all over the news, and he's doing really well. He's gone and bought himself a new Dodge Challenger.
Dodge Charger. Yeah, is it a Charger?
I think it's a Challenger.
Whatever.
They're pretty similar.
One of those.
It's a Hellcat anyway, so it's the bloody supercharged one. It's
red.
It's red and it's fast and it's American.
Yeah, it sure is.
But So yeah, Loda's proposing a business partnership, saying you come with me, you have your own van, we'll work as a tag team, and we can make some serious moolah and all this kind of stuff, and make some serious moolah, brah. I'm talking about moolah, brah. That was hilarious. But so Lou rejects this obviously because he's doing well enough by himself. He doesn't want to get involved with anybody else because he wants to be in control, etc. And coincidentally, Loda then breaks a story that Lou somehow misses, like it's a light aircraft crash. A plane comes down somewhere, or a fire, or something like that. And Lou arrives at the scene, and then Loda is walking out of it with a big smug look on his face, saying, "Ah, you're too late, ha ha. You should have come with me," that kind of thing, rubbing it in his face. And this enrages Lou. We see him like going home and looking in the mirror and smashing the mirror and all this type of stuff. And then there's a very short scene of him sabotaging Loda's car, his news van.
Yes.
Cuts
he
the
goes
brake
over to his
lines
house and like loosens some nut on the axle or the wheel or whatever. Yeah. Something.
Must be maybe it's like the steering frame mechanisms. I don't know, whatever it is, he sabotages it. And of course, one of the next scenes we see is that they pull up to an accident. Lou and Rick pull up to an accident, and it is it's Loda's van smashed into a lamp pole, and he's just careened straight into it. And there's that awful scene where you see Loda being carried out on a stretcher. He's like in shock and bleeding, and he's on a all that type of stuff. And he looks up at this camera filming him, like, who the hell's this? And he looks down, and it's just the creepy Gyllenhaal face looking at him.
Yeah, and he knows, and it's like implied that he knows that he did it.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows it, and he's like, again, Paxton is such a good actor because he does so much with just like his eyes bugging out, like looking at him.
Yeah, that's right.
And just with that look, it's like he's looking at him and he realizes that he did it, and he realizes what he's doing, and he realizes who Lou is, and he's like terrified. And he's sitting there dying, and he's realizing all this stuff, and it's crazy.
yeah, it is. That is a chilling scene. One of the most chilling scenes in the film. That one, just especially when as you say, is the Loda character kind of knowing, and then the camera pans down to see Lou's face, just this cold psychopathic face staring at him.
Yeah, he's got the bright light on him with the camera shining the light at him.
So the light's coming up on his face as well, and that effect when a light shining upwards from the chin is always a scary, image.
Yeah.
But that's taking Loda out of the competition, obviously. So he's no longer a problem for Lou, and so Lou continues doing what he's doing, and he then has a situation where he actually enters the site of a homicide before the police. Now, I'm not sure how this comes about, but it's some rich place, and maybe is it Beverly Hills or some kind of area like that?
What was the neighborhood? I can't remember. It was some affluent neighborhood up there in LA. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, somewhere like that. But so he enters this big mansion, and this just he sees a shootout happening. So there's these guys break into these people's houses and are shooting them and all this type of stuff. And they take off, and then Lou enters the house and films people lying there dead, bleeding, and gets all this footage. And obviously the footage is deemed very controversial by the news station, but they air it anyway. And that attracts the attention of the police. So, two detectives come up and start questioning them. They try and demand the footage, and they interview Lou, and they say, "How, what did you see? How did you get there?" All this type of stuff. And he, of course, just said, "Oh, I just coincidence and happenstance, and I'm just a journalist. This is what I do." Blah 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 blah. And they're obviously suspicious of them right off the bat.
Oh yeah.
The female detective, the black woman is very, very on. She's on to him straight away, basically. You can tell.
she knows what's going on.
Well, she can tell that he's a psychopath. She can tell immediately that this guy is bad news, but she has no proof. And so that's kind of it. But
and he lies to them and saying that he didn't see them, but when he had footage of their faces and actually the license plate of the car too.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
he doesn't give that to him. He withholds that from the police.
He withholds that deliberately,
which is illegal.
Yeah, that is a felony, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, he withholds that information because he's got his own agenda, and that agenda is what he does is he looks up the license plate online, figures out the address of this car, the driver, the people that did the homicide, and
he decides to follow them.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He follows them to quite an affluent area. I think it is. I think there's a mention of that in the film, and they pull into is it a diner or a restaurant or something like that? And
what he's doing is he's setting up the worst possible situation. He could. So he knows who they are. So he gets them. He follows them until they get into a position where he can call the police. And when the police come, there's going to be basically a police shootout between them and the police. And he does it. He waits to call the police when they go in the restaurant because there's all sorts of innocent bystanders there. Because there's going to be more carnage that way.
Exactly. So he does this. They're in the restaurant. Him and Rick park up outside. He demands that Rick go down the street and get ready to film this from a particular angle. And Rick's saying to him, "Look, man, this is bullshit. This is so dangerous. I'm not doing it." And Lou actually threatens him, and basically says, "Look, I would have to hurt you if you were going to, back out on me now. And we're supposed to be business partners." And then I think he demands. I think he'd already demanded more money at that point anyway. But Rick tries to back out on him. Lou bullies him back into line. So Rick grabs his camera and goes down the street to film this stuff. And of course, Lou makes the call to the police, who show up. And of course, there is this big shootout. One of the cops is shot. One of the guys is also shot, but one of them escapes, and it's big 4-wheel drive. And so there's a police chase, of course, and shooting and all this type of stuff. And Lou and Rick get back in the car, and they pursue the police chase. So they're following it, filming it, and then the perpetrator overturns his car or something like that, and one of the police are taken out as well. And they arrive at this crash scene, and Lou gets out to sort of see what's happening, and he sees that the driver of the car is still alive and has a gun. But what he does is he tells Rick that he's dead. He says, "Oh no, the driver's dead. Don't worry about it. You can get out and film him now." So Lou grabs his camera, walks over to this upside down car, and tries to film this guy lying dead in the car, and the guy just looks at him and shoots him. So he shoots and kills Rick right then and there. And then he tries to run away, but the police arrive and kill him. And of course, Lou is standing back safely filming all of this. So
all of it. Yeah,
he gets he gets actually a close up of his business partner Rick dying on the ground, and Rick is saying to him like, "Oh my God, you're a monster," and
he says, "You knew,
you knew."
He said, "You knew."
Yeah.
So again, it's the same thing when he betrays his own Lou. And they're down there lying dead, looking up at him. They realize who he is for certain at this point, but they're dead at this point.
Yeah.
So this is the second time this happens in this film.
Yeah, it's a pretty dark scene. He's just looking at him. He's looking at Rick with these cold eyes, just saying, "Look, what does he say? Something along the lines of, I can never trust you."
I have the line right here. He literally calls him. Calls him an untrustworthy employee as he's laying there dying.
That's right, an untrustworthy employee.
Because of him, because he basically killed him, and he's in there. He calls him an untrustworthy employee.
Yeah, this is the typical psychopathic reasoning. That it's your fault. This is all your fault. You're an untrustworthy employee.
Yeah, and I mean, of all times to say it, when he's laying there dying. He's laying there dying, and that's the last thing you tell him, which is total nonsense, first of all, and he knows it. Yeah. He's just making it up because it's what he does, but he just has to do it. He has to do it then and there. Doesn't matter if it's true. He's a psychopath. He gets off on this, and Rick is totally in tune with the whole deal, everything that had happened, but at this point, it's too late. He had inklings of what was going on before this, but by the time he knew for certain how dangerous Lou was, it's too late. Yeah,
that's the sad part of it. Is it? He was obviously catching on. Slowly catching on that this guy had a screw loose. Didn't quite have the self-esteem or the options to call him out or to go elsewhere, so he kind of stuck with it. But then it all was too late. So but this footage, Lou gets this footage and sells it to the newsroom, and of course this attracts the attention of the police again, who are continuing to investigate, and they are this this female detective who I mentioned before starts really laying it out on him, basically saying, like, I know what you are. You've just filmed your partner dying, and you don't even care, and all this type of stuff. But of course, they have no proof that he's actually done.
They have no evidence.
No evidence that there's any crime. Yeah.
So they have to let him go. And
they let him go, and that's that. And then basically that's it. The final scene of the film is shows Lou hiring a team of interns and expanding his business. So he's got
it's him giving them like a rousing, inspirational opening speech of like, oh, congratulations on being hired.
Yeah,
and then he sets them off in this fleet of 3 vans he has.
Yeah, they've all got their little the polo shirts and the baseball caps on with video production news on the top.
Production, dude, I love that.
A professional news gathering service,
That's good.
And that's it. So that's where the film ends, and dark, very dark.
Oh yeah, yeah. He wins. He wins in the end.
Yeah.
The bad guy wins. So it's another one of those films where it's an anti-hero to say the least, and as the hero ends up winning in the end in the standard film, the evil anti-hero ends up winning in this.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely.
And that says something about the nature of the industry, doesn't it? Because
huge commentary.
Yeah, I mean, this is about the type of person who would suit a role like that, and about how the cluster B, sociopath, psychopath, narcissist, whatever type personality, it fits so well into that industry, and often gets away with it because they have this incredibly cold and cunning way of manipulating and of calculating and of being completely emotionless for the most part, and getting away with things,
Yeah, it's definitely it's a case of get in where you fit in.
Yeah.
So he's a petty thief who happens to be a psychopath, so he'll do anything to get ahead for himself, and he'll exploit others at any and all costs if it benefits him. So the film shows him happening upon, just by accident, the business of being a stringer for local television news. And he's like, okay, this is my calling. Like, obviously, you have to sort of throw scruples aside and forget about ethics and morals if you're going to do this sort of thing. And hey, I don't have ethics or morals as a psychopath, so I can really, I have a one-up on these other guys who actually care, and that's going to drain them and slow them down, and they're going to, lose sleep probably in the day when they're sleeping in the day. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to get ahead. I'm in there. Yeah,
that's exactly it. Because, as you say, we're talking about someone who is completely devoid of empathy, of all empathy whatsoever, and but is perhaps not perhaps not necessarily the most intelligent psychopath. I mean, he's not stupid, but he's not the type of psychopath that perhaps rise to the top of any other industry. This industry perfectly suits him because it's the most base, opportunistic type of work possible, where all you've got to do is find horror and capture it on film. For most people, it's like, as you said, most people would be losing sleep over this. That end up not getting the footage because they try and help the people. And he's not held back by any of those, emotional impediments, shall we say? So he's able to fully exploit the situation.
Yeah, it shows. Again, he's not smart at all, and the film shows that with his background. Just a bicycle thief, a guy selling manhole covers to a junkyard. But throughout the film, I love this. He's always doing his best to convince everybody of like how great he is, and he always goes off on these stories where he's trying to sell himself as this autodidact. Where he says like, I don't have a formal training, but I'm a very fast learner.
Yeah.
And I believe that anybody, if you put enough time in and you study and you do the work, you can do anything. So it's actually very inspirational, and like people can do this, but he like totally exploits what is inspirational to a normal person, but he just uses that to get ahead. And he is online studying every single thing he can in order to get an edge up. So he's constantly like looking online, and that there's so many instances where he exploits someone based on the knowledge that he dug up by just pouring over stuff online.
Yeah.
Like as soon as he comes up with like one little like weak point that somebody has, he'll exploit it, or one little thing that's like going to give him the edge. He remembers it, he marks it down, and so good. I love that.
Yeah, like the scene in the bike shop is a great example of that. Because we see him just randomly stealing a bike that hasn't been locked up properly or whatever, and a few seconds later it seems he's in the bike shop and he knows everything about this bike and what it's made of and the design and what it's capable of and all this type of thing. So yeah, we see again. You're right. We see this over and over in the film, and this is the classic sociopathic methodology of just
they're professional bullshitters.
Professional
That's what they are.
Yeah,
that's what they do.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's again no impediments there. There's nothing holding them back from exploiting every situation to the fullest. There are no moral concerns. There's no distraction. There's no there's nothing to distract them or dissuade them from exploiting absolutely every situation, every person they meet to the full. So
he is looking for weakness. Throughout the film, he with Rick, his partner, he exploits his weaknesses, of which he's got many. Nina, he exploits those.
Yep.
Bill Paxton, he exploits those. Everybody. So he gets the better of everybody in doing that.
Yeah, no, we see it with Rick. Obviously he's put this ad in the paper to appeal to a certain type of person, a person who is down in their luck, who's broke, who's probably, again, relatable character, because a lot of us have been there. But it's also somebody who is obviously lacking in confidence. You know what I mean? Someone who's very, very anxious and nervous, and who's not going to ask questions, who's not going to demand anything for themselves, and so he's targeting that type of person.
That's what he's looking for.
Yeah.
When as soon as he realizes that that's who Rick is and that he can just get anything and everything from him, he immediately says, "You're hired."
Their ego. That's exactly right. And when they're sitting in that sort of interview in the diner or whatever it is, and as soon as he catches on that Rick is like a high empathy, low confidence type personality, and that he's basically a pushover. He's like, "Yep, this guy, you got the job," and he starts.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, exactly. He starts placating his ego and all that type of stuff. So, But again, you mentioned earlier that he does the same thing with Nina. When he tries to, he does successfully manage to blackmail her into sleeping with him. Where
he extorts her to sleep with her
completely.
It's a form of extortion.
Well, it is extortion because the story there is that he's looked up her complete history and her CV or what have you, and she has had a whole string of 2-year contracts at various news stations around LA or wherever, and he deducts that what's happening is she gets a director position at a newsroom, and after 2 years the ratings just aren't good enough for her contract to be renewed, and so she goes to another one, and so he figures out that, right, well, you're coming up to the end of your contract here, and history would seem to indicate that you're not going to have it renewed because your ratings are down, and you have, in fact, KWLA6 has the lowest ratings in Los Angeles, so you need me,
Yes. Yeah, perfect example of him just doing all the research he can to take advantage of everybody. And I think the film is absolutely genius in the relationship between Lou and Nina, and how it's symbolic of the relationship that the real local news industry has or would have with their stringers. This is a fictional story, but it's so symbolic. It's this love affair between the station and the guy who's out there getting this horrible material that keeps it going. It's a love story, but it's twisted. Of course it's twisted because the industry is twisted to begin with. So if you're going to have a love story take place in the midst of this, it's going to be perverse, it's going to be evil, and this is what you get. This
is brought out fantastically in one of the scenes where Lou gets some incredible footage, and I can't remember which incident this is, but he gets them. I think it's toward the end of the film.
It's at the end of the movie.
It's that. it's the home invasion homicide that we're talking about, where the police get involved and he films the perps and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he gets this footage, and Nina they're standing there in the newsroom watching it before it airs, and Nina is actually looking at it, going, "I'm just floored," and you can see her actually getting titillated and sexually excited by it.
Yes, exactly. She enjoys it.
Like,
she's being totally exploited, totally used, but she's doing the same thing. She's exploiting all the stuff that she puts on air. Yeah. So, this is her thing. Yeah. So this is what she gets off on. So a guy comes along to totally exploit and use her. She gets off on that. I love it. Yeah, I love it in the filmmaking sense.
Oh,
how genius this is. It's so genius.
And you see, it is. And the most genius part of it is you see that she, when he initially propositions her and extorts her, asking for
she's
sex.
Worried.
She's worried. She's
like, oh gosh, he's really been looked at. He knows me, and I'm very disturbed and put off by this. But that changes pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. So she is. Excuse me. She's initially not that attracted to him. She thinks she's inspired by his work. She thinks that this guy's got talent. He's just the kind of guy we need for our business. But she's not completely uninterested in pursuing a relationship with him, and we see this when they're sitting in the restaurant, and he's flattering her, and she's just kind of brushing him off and saying, "Look, I'm a much older woman, and I don't date employees," and blah 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 blah. And then a few months later, he's given her this incredible footage, and you see her getting all flustered and going, "Oh," this type of stuff, and it's just incredible how quickly that all turns around. And I think that was.
The music was so good in that scene too. Yeah. It's that the soundtrack is interesting because it's like sort of inspirational, but it doesn't seem to fit.
No,
you're watching this movie with like horrible things happening, but the music is kind of like inspiring and it sounds kind of uplifting.
It's very very much like a Thomas Newman soundtrack, if you're familiar with that. He does a lot of scores, big scores, and this guy was James Newton Howard. I'm not familiar with him, but it's that fickle, reflective music, pianos and kind of synthesized soft synth swells and ambience, and that kind of stuff. So I got that as well. We're dealing with a psychopath. We're looking at this guy who's got these massive hyperinflated pupils, you know what I mean? A completely emotionless face, and yet we've got this kind of soft, ambient, emotional music behind it. And
I think it's great because this is the closest to inspiration that Psychopath gets. And this film is depicting what inspires a psychopath. It's absolute carnage, terror, exploiting and taking advantage of other people. The worst possible things that no normal person wants to even be near. That's what they love.
Yeah.
And so you as a regular person watching the film, it's like, man, this music is way off. But it's actually right on. And the music is just kind of weird enough that's like, it sounds inspiring, but like it kind of isn't quite right. It's like, well, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I just think that's another like where they hit the nail on the head with this film. I mean, this film for me is firing on all cylinders. I can't speak highly enough of this thing.
Yeah, it is pretty well done, and you're right. There's these moments where you're thinking, what the hell is going on here? Are we supposed to be feeling happy about this? You're right. This is the closest that the psychopath would get to a moment of, say, sublime introspection or reflection or joy or what have you. Anything like any of those higher emotions that a normal empath would experience. The closest thing. The closest equivalent to that would be the psychopath, filming some like the most horrific carnage imaginable and going, oh wow, my career is really taking off,
Yeah, so, and knowing they're gonna make money off of it and get ahead and all that. Yeah, very very well done. And I want to mention the fact that this film was shot in L.A. and how I love the way that it uses locations, its use of locations, its depiction, just the way that Los Angeles is portrayed in this is wonderful. And it's portrayed in a way that you don't see in a lot of movies. You see like the dirtier sort of It's at nighttime too. You see the side of Los Angeles that is not glamorous whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see the darker, more realistic side of it.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's funny. It's funny how I kind of relate to that, because obviously this film reminded me of my visit to Los Angeles, and obviously when I was there with you, we didn't do a lot at nighttime. Most of what we did was in the daytime, but for some reason I did. Yeah. I don't know. I found that relatable, and I thought it was the whole idea of showing that kind of underworld. This kind of this whole other world, this space of where everything is quiet and there's not a lot happening, and there's this whole other kind of scene and environment happening, after hours between, say, midnight and 5 a.m., which is where most of this seems to be happening, and I totally get what you're saying there, and despite not having been out a lot at night in LA, for some reason I find it very relatable as well,
Mm-hmm. LA is definitely a city of extreme contrasts, where you've got super wealthy neighborhoods, like the nicest, beautiful neighborhoods and hills, like amazing homes. And then you go just down the street and you got the dumpiest, worst run-down neighborhood ever. People are living out in the streets. And you can walk through the city and you see it change like that. You could if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about filmmaking, typically you don't want to show you don't want to be shooting many films in Skid Row because it's depressing, Yeah. And you don't want to be filming at like a gas station on a corner somewhere where it's like, man, the city's kind of dumpy looking, like this. Can we get a better looking location? Yes, we could, and we will. We're not going to show those bad parts of the city, but this film does, and I love it. And yeah. I'll mention that first scene where he comes upon that car crash before he gets into the business. That was shot on the 105 freeway. In the film, they say it's the 110. And if you look in the background, you can see the Raytheon and Boeing signs
right there. Okay.
on the buildings. It's right by LAX airport is where he filmed it.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Funnily enough. But yeah.
I don't know if there's any meaning in putting those buildings there, but I just like the fact that those are there and you can read the signs and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that is interesting. I found this interesting in a similar sense when we talk about the representation of LA. Just from my own visit, when I was there with you, and I think what I really took away from this was the very concept of of these local news stations, because we don't really have them in other parts of the world. We have similar things, but it doesn't work in the same way. We don't have these stations that are just broadcasting like crisis all the time, and all this kind of sensationalist stuff. It's different, and so it reminded me a lot of watching television, in the US, and there's a couple of. Sorry?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This just made me think of something else. Of the LA thing is so perfect too, because we have those news stations in spades across the country here. They're all horrible. These local news stations. They're so bad, but LA is even worse than the rest. They even take things to like a sort of Hollywood level, in that like the anchors, like the female anchors, are all like super good-looking women, you know what I mean? Always, and the weather ladies, they're like, in other parts of the country, no, it's more, it's not the same. But basically what you get here is the women who wanted to be actresses, but they couldn't make it, and they made it onto the TV news station, and the TV news station's like, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. Thank you very much. We're putting you on camera. We're keeping you there. Yep. So that's another very LA thing. Just, the looks, she's got to have the perfect look, but you intertwine that with the violence. Yes. And then the Nina character is a washed up news anchor. You can tell. One of these women. Yeah. That's what her character was. Like, she used to have the looks, but now she's old, so she can't do that. She's got to go off the camera. The industry is done exploiting her, and they put her in the back room. She's barely hanging on to that because she gets thrown out every 2 years, right? Yeah. But this is the only industry she knows. She doesn't know what to do. So she's in that vulnerable situation. But again, it's a horrible industry. It's exploitive. It's L.A. It's show business, but at a low scale, local news show business. It's Americana.
Yeah. With the exemplification of what the majority of people in LA are actually doing. You know, you've got the elite who are actually in Hollywood, and then everybody else is kind of on some slightly lower level doing these, just trashy local news or, things that
that's a step up from most. Most are just, working at a bar or waiting tables or something,
true.
if even that.
True. You're right. Yeah, that makes sense. But again, this was interesting because I saw all of this. I noticed this really stood out to me as someone from, outside the US coming in as a kind of an outsider and a visitor looking at. I remember, for example, there was one afternoon like you went there, you went to work, and I was just killing time by myself flicking through the channels. And I was just going, well, wow, what the hell? It's just every channel was like a car chase happening live,
Yeah, the live car chases. Yeah, that's a California thing for sure.
It was incredible, I think there was 2 or 3 of them happening at the same time where there's like, you flick from one, it's just like car chase channels. I mean, you're literally seeing these things unfold, with the helicopters following this car down the freeway and the people that the newscasters are commenting on, I hope there's no children in that school bus and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They're very concerned.
They love doing that.
They're very concerned about the situation.
We see that in the in the film and the home invasion footage. Remember that with the news anchors that they are narrating across the top of this footage.
Yes.
So the footage shows the Gyllenhaal character walking through this house and filming one body after the other, and these news anchors are reading out the sort of narrative about, oh goodness gracious, this is terrible. There's this urban crime. It's creeping into the blah blah blah, and of course they've got an earpiece in, and you see the Rene Russo character like saying hit it harder, pump it up, all this type of stuff as they're going, like repeat the keyword and drive home this point, and then we're coming up to the crib here. I hope there's not a baby in the crib, and it's just an incredible like how staged and scripted all that stuff is,
Yeah. In fairness, the film is an extreme version of the truth, in that they wouldn't actually show that sort of footage on a local news show. No. But, the artistic license, they're doing basically the same thing. And like you say, the anchors giving their silly little commentary about their concern is completely vacuous.
It's always that super conservative white person concern as well. You know what I mean? Like I hope we're all safe here, and that
there's children in those other cars.
Yeah.
I hope they don't bash into them.
Yeah, exactly.
And with the car chases in particular, I'm just going to talk about this now. Like they'll always say if you're ever in this situation, make sure you don't do anything. Like sometimes you'll get somebody that tries to do some like vigilante justice with their car, like knock the guy off the road. They're like, if you're ever in that situation, don't do that. They'll throw that stuff in there.
Yeah, let the police take care of it. Yeah. All that stuff.
It's nutty out here, I tell you. It's crazy.
Yeah, again, being an outsider looking in, we just don't have that type of stuff elsewhere in the world. There's some pretty bad stuff in New Zealand. I mean, New Zealand Herald is pretty shocking with the sensationalistic, murders and all that kind of thing. But you don't have like live chases being broadcast. It just doesn't seem to happen. And
these local news shows are every night, every morning, every night. The night one is the most violent one.
Oh yeah,
and it's every channel, every basic channel has this. And they're horrible. The story is very much, I mean, if it bleeds, it leads. That's true.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Something I just thought of that I want to mention is there's a book called, was it 5 Reasons to...
5 Arguments for the Abolition of Television. Is that it?
That's it. Yeah. Jerry Manter, right? That's his name. I think that's his name. That book is so good, and it gives a lot of good reasons as to why this sort of thing happens, and that the very nature of the medium of TV almost demands
exploitation,
sensationalism and violence and like constant action, just to keep the viewer engaged.
Yeah, it's true.
So the content creators are going to do that. They're going to make that in order to get the ratings, and so you set up that predicament just with the medium itself.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, when you look at the mediums like television, and this can also be you can apply this to social media and so many things on the internet as well. It's just that it can almost only go in one direction in order to be successful and to be what it is. In order to keep your attention, in order to keep people engaged, in order to actually be effective as a medium, it needs to be sensationalistic. It needs to exploit, and it needs to become more sensational. It needs to become more intense over time, because by the very nature of the medium, it desensitizes you. And so what was exciting one day is not going to be exciting tomorrow, and you'll need more. So, this goes for a lot of things.
Yeah, it's. I just want to mention a couple of things about the Lou character, like little lines he says and stuff he does again, because at the heart of this movie, or I mean, essentially, this is a depiction of psychopathy.
Yeah,
and it's a great one, and I love how it aligns with a psychopathic industry.
Yeah.
And it's great, because it's not only giving you this warning, this realistic warning about psychopathy, but also the fact that psychopaths can thrive, and that they frequently do, and that there is such a thing as psychopathic industry. You could label it that. But one of my favorite lines is when Lou is interviewing Rick, and Rick isn't like doing such a great job at like explaining why he's the right candidate for the job, and Lou tells him, "Sell yourself."
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I love that line. It's so good, because again, it's symbolic. He's telling him, like, that's a cornball line, and that's kind of throwaway, and you've heard it a million times. It's totally cliche within this context, and it fits the context. But it's also very dark. It's like, sell yourself.
Yeah.
Well, what does that even mean? Like, are we human products? We're here to be bought and sold, and you sit here sitting in front of the psychopath. You're trying to sell yourself.
Well, that's the way he sees people. So, yeah.
Exactly. I just, again, that was one of those lines that's so good. And Lou is used as the embodiment of like all these twisted things that just kind of run rampant in our society that we can't do a whole lot about. But for anybody willing to exploit these things that kind of go along with the cliches, and Lou is just like he's a treasure trove of cliches and just like fake inspirational stories. Again, like he's trying to sell himself as this autodidact that's really trying to make the American dream happen for himself. And it's like, again, it's just a professional bullshitter.
Yeah.
And normal people have a hard time existing in a world that just that throws this sort of thing at them. I mean, we live in a world that kind of asks us to sell ourselves in this way. Actually, very, very literally, you will get this. Like, well, yeah, you have to sell yourself to get the job. You hear this all the time.
Oh, absolutely, and it's true to a degree. But I've always most personally been uncomfortable with that in so many different ways. Just the idea that you've got to be someone that you're not. You've got to be fundamentally dishonest and disingenuous in order to get ahead, simply in order to survive. I mean, I've always had a huge problem with that. I find it difficult. I do have to do it. I've done it when I need to, and I will do it when I need to. But it's not something that I agree with or I feel comfortable with, because it's fundamentally fake. It's
disingenuous. You're lying.
You are lying. You're being emotionally and intellectually dishonest with somebody. You're saying that you are something that you are not, so that you can gain something from them. And I have a problem with that on a fundamental level. So I totally get what you're saying.
In many ways, we live in a psychopathic society that asks us to do that.
We do.
Regularly, routinely. And it's really draining on regular people. And you get characters like Rick that are, he's emotional, empathic guys, and he just gets to a point where he's like so down on his luck that he's just to a point where it's like, man, I got to do something here. I'll do anything, and then you see what happens.
The other interesting thing about that interaction there, where Lou tells Rick to sell himself, is that Lou has already made up his mind at that point. What he's wanting to do is, he sees that. He sees that Rick is an empath, and that Rick is, lacking the confidence to put himself out there, or has issues with it, whatever. And so he says, he's basically saying to him, like, I've decided that I want to hire you already, but I'm going to make you think that you've got yourself the job. So if I say to you, sell yourself, and then you start to sell yourself, then what I'm saying is it creates the illusion that he's actually gotten
control.
He's actually in control, exactly. So he's
he's
already selected him, but he's giving them the illusion of control, which is a classic psychopathic technique, and something that is, which is done in the economic system anyway by non-psychopathic people, because the system itself requires it. So. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, just normal people are forced in. I mean, just think of a job interview situation. You have to be a professional bullshitter to one degree or another. It doesn't have to be so extreme, but you have to just embellish, to say the least. And we are encouraged to do so.
Well,
and people who are very much into being honest have difficulty.
Have a real hard time.
Yeah, they have a hard time with this situation.
And this is the thing, and I mean, what's funny is when you're, say, for example, if you're putting together a CV, or you're going to an interview, or writing cover letters, or anything to do with getting a job, all the employers you're dealing with know full well that you're full of shit, right?
That's
but
true.
If you don't but if you don't put out all that bullshit, and if you don't talk yourself up and spin all of your attributes positively, then they're not going to be interested. It's almost like it's this farce, isn't it? It's this situation where they know that you're bullshitting. They know that you're you're greatly exaggerating your talents and your experience. But it's like what you're getting. You're getting the job based on the quality of your bullshit, is what I'm saying. Everybody knows. It's bullshit. They know it's bullshit, and so they,
But that's the name of the game.
That's the name of the game.
I mean,
That's
what we're playing. Yeah.
So you're judged basically when you get a job. You're judged not on the quality of who you are, but on the quality of your bullshit, and that says something about the system, doesn't it?
You know what? It pains me to say these things, and it sounds so cynical, but I'm sorry, this is the truth, and this is, oh man, I've struggled with this over the years, and it kills me. Gosh, it's I mean, how this could be like kind of taken. Oh, those are just, you can, if you're honest and hardworking, you'll get ahead. And you can, but. My gosh, this is very much the case, and I think we ought to be able to own up to that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is something that I personally battle with this, and have done all the time. I think perhaps more so now as I've gotten older and more. I don't know. My own journey has been about being more real rather than being fake.
Mm-hmm.
And so I struggle with it more now than I have ever. The whole notion of being disingenuous and bullshitting, and yet the older you get, the more life requires of you, and the more work and effort you've got to put in to get anywhere. And so at the same time, while you're trying to be more real, then life demands that you be more disingenuous and duplicitous. And so it is a real struggle. And it's true. Hard work and persistence do pay off, and they can get you somewhere. But there's also a lot of bullshit involved, and I think it's a case of maybe people trying to find their niche and do the hard work in such a way that it doesn't involve bullshit. And personally, that's what I'm doing right now with my life. Just doing the hard work part of it and not doing the bullshit part of it.
Yeah. Another aspect of Lou that I enjoy watching on screen here is his complete lack of loyalty. Where there's two situations where his colleagues are dying, and actually in both situations it's because he's basically murdered them.
Yeah.
And the first time after he sabotaged Bill Paxton's van and he walks up and he's filming him, or before he gets there, on their way, Rick is like, "Oh man, that's that guy. What's his name? Blah 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 blah. We can't do this. He's one of us.
One of us.
That's
yeah.
Rick is saying, "Hey, he's one of us. We can't do it." And of course, Lou's like, "Oh, whatever, man." And he just jumps out of the car and goes and he films it. So the normal person has loyalties, and you're part of the trade union, or you work a certain job. You feel a kinship with other people that do the same thing. That's just natural. But, Lou as a psychopath, it doesn't bother him. He'll just, he will literally kill his colleagues, and he'll enjoy it, and he'll succeed in doing so.
Yeah, and he does. He does kill his colleague, and he enjoys it, and he makes profit out of it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he reminds me a lot of the Patrick Bateman character in American Psycho. You know, the Christian Bale character. So
Oh, yeah.
same guy. You know, Mr. Sunshine, Mr. Smiley, full of inspirational quotes. Everybody's best friend. He's doing well. All this, got money, success. The career's taking off. Everything's going well for him, and yeah, absolute and utter psychopath with no empathy or morals whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Same
again,
deal.
that's a good American Psycho it's a sensationalistic but good and accurate depiction of a psychopath, and this film was another one of those, and this should hopefully go down in the in the history books, shall we say, of films that portray psychopaths accurately. And
It had ought to. Man, this film is so good. I mean, we've seen a number of terrible films for doing reviews on this show. We've seen a number of really, really first-rate films, and this is if it's not at the top of the list, it's right up there. I mean,
look, it's in the top 5.
This thing is something else. Yeah,
this has got to be in the top 5. It's excellent. It's incredibly dark though, and I think that's
so dark. But I love that, and for me, that's. I mean, when a film does something that other films don't because they're scared to do it. Yeah. Because this is dark and people aren't going to like it. Yeah, and, nobody wants to go see a movie like this.
You're not going to get your little dopamine hit at the end when the hero wins, and gets the girl. No. Sorry. Nightmares after this one.
I love it when filmmakers just like go all out and be like, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to tell the truth. And we don't care. We're doing this thing. We're doing this project. And I don't know what the motivations were for the filmmakers exactly, but I mean, from the looks of the film and from the content of the film, it looks to be a virtuous project here, I would say.
Well, it's exposure of something that is real. It's exposure of the psychopathic media industry. And I mean, you're looking at the lower levels of it. So we're looking at the very bottom of the pit there with these local news stations just putting out crisis and carnage and blood and all that type of stuff. But it says something. I mean, if this is okay, so these people are scraping the bottom of the barrel to get attention and get ratings, but it still tells you how the industry works. It still tells you that these people will exploit to achieve their goals, to get ratings, to get attention, so it doesn't matter if it's local news or whether it's a TV series, or Hollywood or respectable news even,
This could actually be like a covert expose of Hollywood in general, and thus it makes sense that it's filmed in LA, and it depicts it in such a dark, literally dark at night, right? Sense. And it shows you the seedy underbelly. It shows you like the trashy, sort of like dirty side of LA and dumpy little diners and stuff. It's not all mansions, and it's not all like the picture of the Chinese theater that you see in the movie premiere night. And it's it's definitely it's small portion of it.
It's people struggling to survive. Doing whatever they can to survive. I mean, that and the interview again between Rick and Lou, Lou says, "Look, do you trick?" And Rick's like, "Man, no, I'm not gay." So this is like obviously something that is expected of somebody who's out in the streets or who's homeless or strapped for cash, is that they would do something like this. And I mean, I've heard about this in other scenarios, like just references and books and other stories where guys have gotten desperate and have actually gone out and done that type of stuff. So this is the kind of and I'm talking about people in LA. So this is this is obviously something that happens, and this is the reality obviously for people.
LA is tough. Yeah, it's tough. It's rough.
They call it the land of broken dreams, isn't that the?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that kind of subtitle somewhere. Someone talked, was it a book or a song or something? They talked about LA as the land of broken dreams. So.
Yeah, because you can only have a small amount of people who actually make their way into the industry. Yeah, because it's only so big, it only has so much room. You have so many people that want to do it, so you're gonna by default, just have people that don't make it in, and then they gotta figure something out. So that's.
And that's
oh my gosh,
that's the other side of the story when we talk about these inspirational quotes and these ideas about, you know, hard work brings success, and that everybody, you know, anybody who works hard can get to the top of the mountain, and that type of thing. It's I mean, this is true, but it's also false to believe that,
yes.
you know, that you also can guarantee yourself a place in the Hollywood elite or the financial elite or whatever industry it is. You know,
you have to get lucky.
You get to
in
get
one
lucky.
respect.
Well, networking.
You have to get lucky. Networking. I mean, there's things that you can do that are going to give you the edge up, but even when you do that, you might find yourself in a bad situation, and that's just, you know, that's how it goes. That's normal.
That is normal.
That's LA life.
And you do see actors and, you know, the Hollywood scene come and go. You see people who were really big and famous, say 10, 15 years ago, and they were, you know, like a really attractive woman or the handsome guy, and they were in a top TV series, and then just boom, gone.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Yeah.
And you never hear of them again. And there's no reason, there's no rhyme or reason. They were great. They were, you know, stars.
You hear everything about them while they're a star on all the like celebrity news shows, and then just instantly overnight you don't hear anything anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. It's flavor of the week.
Flavor of the week, indeed.
And if you want to talk about like the inspirational quotes and the silly little cliches that the psychopath just loves, he just can't get enough of them. He throws them out there. The real tragedy is when regular people really latch onto those and really like wholeheartedly believe in them, and are like, yeah, this is inspirational, this is the truth, and they don't see the darker side, and they don't come to terms with reality, and the delusion of people in LA is like second to none. And people just like in a pretty bad situation, and they're and they're just trying to throw out the inspirational quotes and like living within that frame of mind, but it's not working out.
Yeah, you hear about these stories all the time, and of course the young women that go there, they either end up in these news anchor desks, or they go into like pornography or modeling, or you know, something like that.
That's a huge
pornography
thing's huge. Yeah.
So it's just, again, land of broken dreams, and end up just scraping the bottom of the barrel. And the film again, I think I agree that perhaps what you're saying this film might be is an expose of all of that. So it's focusing on these, you know, it's focusing on just on the most obvious part of it. You know, the part of it that we can all see is clearly exploitative, sensationalistic, and debased, basically. You know,
and it's a low rung on the ladder.
Well, yeah, low hanging fruit, shall we say, for criticism. You know, is what it is. But absolutely relevant to the whole of Hollywood and that whole scene and all the rest of it. So But listen, what do you reckon about doing another episode on this? Maybe a part 2, because I mean I've got a whole bunch of other things that we could talk about. We didn't really get into the whole idea of the narratives that are being fabricated.
Narratives. We didn't get into the narratives, did we? Yeah, I mean that's a big part of it.
It's a big
and that's
part
what's
of
relevant.
It.
Yeah,
very relevant.
We never did hit that.
And I think I could definitely talk about that for a while. And this film is so good that maybe we should return to it. So,
sure, yeah. There's so many levels in this film that I knew that I'd talk quite a bit, because I just have so many ideas about it. Yeah,
but I mean, I got to get going tonight. But we should, we should return to this. Maybe we don't have to do a full one.
I have a great idea. Let's start the episode by saying how this film depicts false narratives, and then maybe move on from there and talk about current events again with false narratives if there's time.
Well, we can kill two birds with one stone then, can't we? Because we were going to do both those things anyway. So perfect. Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll be back shortly for everybody that's listening. We'll do that. We'll pick up on the film again and talk about some of the current events with the election and all these narratives, etc. But in the meantime, you can get the podcast from tmpodcast.com. You can get the subscribe the RSS on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and TuneIn. You can also get us on Themes and Memes Podcast on YouTube and on Twitter @ThemesMemes. So
there you go. Subscribe, listen, share with other people who are as crazy as you are, who enjoy this sort of talk.
Yeah.
They're really sick of the professional bullshitters, and they're not going to put up with it anymore. If you know people like that, send them our way.
Yeah. We're going to depose the mainstream, man.
We are.
Yeah,
we are. We're
taking
working.
over.
We're getting there.
We're getting those ratings in. But no, in all seriousness, though, we've got a hell of a lot of new listeners over the last few months. So the numbers are going up, and not to want to play the numbers game or play the ratings game or anything like that, but it's good. It's good to know that the more and more people are listening to this, because it proves that people like what we do, and so that's motivation for us to keep doing it. But until then, until next time, I bid you adieu.
Yes, we will see you.
Take care. This podcast was recorded on the 26th of November, 2016.